Okay, so before we go anywhere, okay, we are going to look at our briefra, Shanukal agus Nahna Kancha in yo. So you will see me, just I suppose to touch on Nahna Kancha again, you will see me talk about Nahna Kancha a lot, especially with regards to the orals. And basically what it means is, so Nahna Kancha are frosy that we want to try and bring into our Irish when we're at Glort Squelga. Now, obviously, we can bring them in as well when we're writing Gaeilge, but I suppose from an oral point of view, we were just talking about a Glort Gaeilge. So, it just adds to your Gaeilge and it makes you sound like, more fluent. It makes it sound more natural. So that's why they're really important, I suppose, to get to grips with, okay? And that's why I keep harping on about them, because it really does. I know to you, it mightn't sound like you're more fluent by using them, but as an examiner listening to you, you definitely sound more fluent. Okay, so let's have a look at our briefra on Tachtan Shaw. So gyar is to cut. Okay, so remember, like we can obviously like to physically cut, but like if you wanted to say like to cut back on something, so like gyar she sheer air, I don't know, alcohol, so he cut back on alcohol. No, gyar she sheer air shock lodge, no worthy martian. Okay, creekney, okay, to finish. And again, just be so cormac when you're using this and I'm sure loifrock, because obviously creeknium is I finish. But if you were saying like what I hear a lot to say, like with regards orals, so Kinthama creeknium too on upper, creeknium may. Okay, I hear a lot. Okay, so I suppose it's trying to avoid that mistake. And then imig is a great verb, okay? So imig is the verb to leave. Ceart galore, to leave. So dimig she, right? He left vi she imaha. It was, so if you wanted to actually write that one down, I'm going to write that one down in Zoom chat. So vi she imaha. So it was gone, right? Vi she imaha, right? It was gone. Or even he was gone, okay, depending on what context you want to use it in. Now, our Shanukal you will have seen, obviously, when we were doing our ashtas, okay? So, ni lia dina no torum, so opinions are as plentiful as people. Great Shanukal, obviously, like everyone has an opinion on, a topic, everyone has a different opinion. That's kind of what that Shanukal means, is everyone has a different opinion. So anything topical at all, okay, you can use that Shanukal with. And then our Nahana Kancha, again, is really suitable to the oral, okay, which is Shin Kesh Wa. That's a good question. And again, it's just like you're kind of, like interacting with the examiner, just making them feel like, you're really comfortable about all of this, etc. So Shin Kesh Wa, that's a good question. So before we go on now and look at our grammar again today, right? Let me know. So first of all, how are you getting on at school, and what have you been focusing on like this week? And even if you weren't here last week, what have you been focusing on? And do you have any Easter tests coming up? So inish them. Okay, on what, Leah? That was your first time to do Cocomellish, was it? Okay. Okay, Gracie. So your teacher is kind of doing like all these different topics, and they're kind of like oral topics, and then she's doing kind of like essays on them and stuff like that. Okay. Okay, that's a good idea, actually. Okay, interesting that you're having a test on film techniques because it did come up on the mock this year for Cócamillis. So yeah, I'd say that's why your teacher is probably focusing in on them because it came up on the mock and about the film techniques in Cócamillis, and we kind of weren't really expecting it to come up. So guys, have you any Easter exams? Like, do you have any big Easter exams coming up or anything? Okay. So it'll just be kind of like class tests or whatever, and then it'll just be straight ahead to the summer. Okay. Perfect. Good to know. Good to know. And so just out of now, Gracie, I know we did a bit of this last week, but I suppose just have a conversation before we go into this grammar stuff. Have you done any grammar things like this? So talking about Fern Scannock, Bon Scannock, and obviously Mo Kenealloch, have you talked about them kind of by themselves at school? Like has your teacher done any work with them? Okay, great, Leah. Okay, good. So again, this is just to obviously solidify and like again, if you get stuck at any stage when I'm rambling on, please just stop and ask me, okay, to explain something to you, right? And I will do my best to explain myself properly. Okay, so I'm kind of doing it a bit backwards this week, and because I wanted to change it up how I done it last week. So last week I talked about like, first of all, what gets a masculine, as in like, how do I identify what are masculine nouns? How do I identify what are feminine nouns? And then obviously the rules that they take when on goes in front of them. Okay, so on obviously means the, okay, and when we put on in front of a word, it can change the word, right? How does it change it? So sometimes the word might get a shevu, so a H. Sometimes the word might get a T apostrophe, or sorry, not a T apostrophe, a T dash, so a T fleshking, okay, or sometimes it might get a T attached to it. And these show me, right, when I'm reading Irish, these show me that they are either masculine or feminine, okay? So I was saying last week, and I'm going to say it again because I keep even repeating myself at school, think of the fat man and the skinny woman, okay? So the fat man is their cunson lahan, okay? So, you know, when we think of it like that, think of a lot of words that end in a broad vowel, okay? Now end in a consonant, but end in a broad vowel, okay? So they're normally Ferenc, okay? They're normally masculine. However, if you have verbs that are end in a consonant quail, right, which is a slender consonant. So again, right, this is still ending in a consonant, but now it ends in either an I or an E. They are normally feminine. Okay, now that's broadly speaking. Okay, there's a lot of like, you know, like let's think of like Bealin, Picterlin, Auerklin, they all end in LANN. They are all feminine as well, right? So then you have Ofa the GEOG, right? Like Brogue, Pishog, Billog, Quinnog, they are all feminine also. Okay, so but I suppose if you were stuck, okay, I would just say to people, think of, you know, the fat man and the skinny woman. For a lot of them will kind of come in under that rule. But then there is a few of them, you know, like if they end in CHT. So actually, I'm gonna call out, I have like I'm gonna break it down. Now I know I have some here, right? Like lower down on the um worksheet, but I actually have like I have all the masculine groups and the feminine groups just here behind my laptop, so I'm just going to read them out to you and you can write them down in English, okay, because I don't have this written on the sheet, okay? So right, so if you want to write down masculine masculine nouns and then groups, okay, or groups of masculine nouns. So these are all the different groups of masculine nouns. Okay, so I don't go into as much detail on the page, right, on this handout as I'm going to give it to you here. So I'm going to give you what they are, and then I'm going to give you an example, okay, of it. Does that make sense? Okay, so hopefully you're both with me. Okay, so the first thing obviously is name people or animals that are male. Okay, so I'll write the examples then so you'll be able to keep up and then obviously be able to spell them correctly. So for example, on Tahir, their father. Okay, on Far, on Buhal, so on Tarav is the bull. Okay, Toshe Fernsh Canuck, right? So that's the first thing. People and animals, right, are normally masculine. Okay, now not all of them, but a lot of them, right? So let's just say, for example, on Poshta is masculine, right? Even though it's slender. On Tishmahor, okay, masculine, right? Now, jobs is the next thing. Jobs are normally masculine. So we have on Mechnor, right? The mechanic. On Gruagura, okay, the hairdresser. On, sorry, I spelled that wrong. Gruagura. Okay, on Rooney, the secretary. Okay, so again, any job, right, is well, most jobs are Bonnish or are Ferenchkanuk, right, are masculine. Okay, now the next one is, and then I want you to write this down. So nouns that end in I or I or E. Okay, I or I or E. Okay, now, so I want to give you an examples of that. So on Marcor, okay, on Rivera, on printer, okay, sorry, printer. Keeps giving me the English version. Spell check on print. Okay, that's not gonna change for me, will it? On printer. Okay. Right, so that's that one. So I'm just going to repeat that. That is nouns that end in either I or I or E are masculine. Okay. The next one is very important. So I'm going to write it here in English. One syllable nouns that end in CHT. Okay, so on smock, the control, on fuach, the cold, okay, unlocked, the fault, okay. So again, but now it's very important to note that they are one syllable, and you'll see why when we go and look at the Banishkanok, okay. Now, next one is nouns that end in I for the N. Okay, I for the N. So the most famous one on Colleen, okay, the girl, even though it's a girl, it's actually masculine, okay. On Colleen, on Gordine, on quinine, on Tutsine, the cigarette, okay. So on Kruskine, the jug, right, all of these, okay. So they're normally masculine. Then we have nouns that end in ISTE, okay. So we have poshta, aroshta, kaboshta, okay. So I'm just going to put here aroshta, kaboshta, aroshta, kaboshta. Now, what would they look like? With on in front of them, so because on begins with or aroshta begins with an O, it would be on taroshta, and then kaboshta is just on kaboshta, okay. And then you have small little, like very, very small groups, which is EO and U, okay. So like I'll just give you like a EO and U fada, isn't it? Yeah, U fada. So like on Kyo, right? On Tordu, the order. On Crinu, the meeting or the appointment. Okay. Again, don't be overly concerned if you didn't know all of these. Don't worry, you can still do very, very well. Okay. But I suppose it's just to give you the information on it if you get a chance to learn them and practice them. So guys, that's all the masculine ones, right? Now, so now we're going to move on to the Banachkanuk, okay? Right. So what nouns are normally feminine? Okay, so let me tell you. So the first group is, so things or animals that are normally or that would be feminine, right? So, for example, Aninni, the daughter. Okay, Aninni. On Water, the mother. Okay, these are all feminine, right? Would you believe on Kjark, so the chicken, okay, or the hen rather, is feminine. The cow is feminine actually. Would you believe? So I don't know what they're trying to say about us women. Okay, the women or the cow. Okay, now this is where it gets, obviously, we get a little bit more detailed. So next one is nouns that end in, as I kind of said already, O for the G or EOG. Okay, so brogue, fuinog. So for example, on rogue, on villog, the page, on inyog, the window. Okay, so that's that one. The next one is nouns that end in L-A-N-N, okay? So, Violin would go to on Violin, on Fichterlin, on Taherlin, right? On Sportlin, okay? So, they are all feminine, okay? Now, then we have, and I'm going to write this down, so 2-syllable nouns that end in CHT. Okay, now 2-syllable. Because remember, we had 1 syllable. So if it's 1 syllable and it ends in CHT, like locht, smacht, fuocht, eocht, okay? Kjacht, right? Kjacht lesson, it's Bernschkanok. But if it's like Erocht, Filiocht, Valocht, Margiocht, Technoliocht, right? Tachterocht, okay? They are all 2-syllable nouns, which means they are feminine, okay? Banishkanok, right? So I'm just going to show you like the poetry on Iliocht. Sorry, that's on Iliocht. On Chochterocht, okay, on, what other word did I say there? Shkoliocht, whatever, okay, so, okay, right, so that's that. Now, and then it's, I'm just trying to see what one I'm missing there. So, nouns that end in CHAN. Again, that's a real small group. Don't need to worry too much about that. So like on Vjoken, the revival, okay? Nuachon, what else did they say there? Yeah, that's kind of it. I can't think of any other words that end. No. No, so I'm going to move on. Right, then it gets to a little bit more like straightforward. So first we have countries, okay, are normally mass or normally feminine. The only countries that aren't feminine, right, so mass countries are Mexico, Mexico. Have I even spelled that right? Mexico. Yeah. August, Canada. Okay. Shin Bernschkanok, right? But majority of them are all Bernschkanok. Languages, they are all feminine bar Berla. Berla is masculine, right? So that's why we would never say an bhéarla. Okay, well, unless you're talking in the Tishel Ginnajuk, but like the English an bhéarla, it's an bhéarla, okay, because it doesn't take a shebu because it's masculine. And also then, like, obviously rivers, believe it or not, all the rivers are feminine. And then obviously the cunts and quail, okay? So with that said then, right, so that's kind of a run through of them, okay? Now, what happens to them then? So if you have a noun and it starts with a consonant and it's masculine, nothing changes, right? So you need to think of like the independent man, the man who knows everything. He needs no changes to him, okay? When he begins with a consonant, so he stays as he is. However, the woman, okay, so if it begins with a consonant, it gets a shevu. So you're putting the H in with the woman, okay, if on is in front of the word. If the noun begins with a gota, so begins with a noun, you put a T dash in front of it if the word is masculine. So on Tagalog, on Pifakuk, on Taron, on Tover. Okay, so you're putting the T dash when it is masculine. Okay, if you have a noun that begins with a vowel and it's Balanchkanuk, nothing changes to it. Okay, no change, right? So think of like the nouns as nearly like feminine in a way, right? Nobody touches them. Now, an easy one, an easy one to remember. D and T can't take a H, no matter if it's Ferenchkanook or Bonenchkanook, so it stays as it is, okay? And that's because of the dentals, and I'm sure your teacher has taught you about the dentals. So on Thalia, because this ends with an N, and this begins with the T, they're both part of the dentals, DNTLS, so therefore no change can happen, okay? But I just show you, so on Thalia, Ferenchkanook, on Theris, Ferenchkanook, on Donlan, Bonenchkanook, on Tina, Bonenchkanook, okay? And then the last one catches a lot of people. So nouns that start with S, okay? If they are masculine, nothing changes to them, okay? But if they are feminine, you put a T attached to it. I always use the example of on throds, right? On throds. I'm going to write that here in Zoom chat. On throds, the street, okay? Throds is feminine. So on throds, that's the one I always keep in my head to remember, okay? But like, oh yeah, feminine S's get T's in front of them, okay? Now, all I do then here is I go through it, probably not in as much detail as I just talked you through it there, but obviously you have more examples then to get through, okay? And I think in Noti are important, obviously, you know, to have and look back on, and it's really important to see examples so you can see the differences, right? Okay, so before we actually practice this, okay, I want you to just summarize the notes I've just kind of said to you. Like, so maybe just take 60 seconds yourself, right? And just kind of try and sum up for me, okay? And this is going to be kind of like, so this is a really good study tip. So when you've learned a unit, it's like being able then to summarize what you've just learned. So you don't need to write it all out, but just like in shorthand, what can you remember from what I've just said? Okay, so maybe give yourself like 60 seconds to think about what I've just said and then write down what you've just retained from the last 20 minutes. So I'm not looking for full correct answers. I'm just looking to see what you retained in that last 20 minutes. Okay, and then we're going to practice some of them. So I want you to summarize the notes on how to identify masculine and feminine nouns. So tell me what you've retained in the last 20 minutes, write it down, and then we're going to move on. So it's kind of like you're feeding back to me what you've taken in. Okay, so if you can write them in your boxes, let the whole. So I'm going to give you like 60 seconds and then you can start writing and then I'll comment afterwards. Okay, this just shows me how much you can retain. what I see here and what I feel is really good is that you're noticing the, like it depends whether a word is one syllable or two syllable with the CHT, because that's like uber important. Because I know when I was in school, I really struggled. I was like, oh, but I was like, I thought that was feminine, but it's only two syllable nouns that end in CHT that are feminine. But like ceacht and smacht and dracht, which is a draft, okay, on dracht, they're all masculine, okay? Um, when even though they have CHT, so it is important to know that, okay? Right. I want you to practice some of these now, okay? Now I've made it easy because, and I know there's a good few of them there, but I've made it easy for you because it has beside it whether it's French Canuck or Bonnish Canuck, Ceart Galore. So I want you to just obviously, if you want to just write 19.1 and then 19.2 and just obviously write on in front of them. So what would happen? So for example, I'm going to do the first one. Okay. So the first one would be on Tagalog. Okay. So I want you now to do the rest of them for me. Now, I'm obviously going to give you a few minutes, but I really want you to pay attention to this, okay? Because remember, 80% of your marks is going for grammar when you are doing your essay. And obviously we want to try and get our grammar as perfect as possible. But also I want you to notice, like when you're reading Gaeilge or you're reading your noti on Mún Tóra, so from the notes of your teacher, that you can see which words are feminine, which words are masculine. Okay, so I want you to give these a go for me now. I'm going to give you like 5 minutes and then I'm going to like pop in and we'll finish the rest of them then together and then we'll move on to the Mo Cinealach. Ceart Galore. And as always, Accorda, stop and ask me or like type or, write in a message to the chat or like unmute yourself to ask me a question if you're unsure of some word or what to do with it. That is the only way you are going to improve. Okay, so into your boxes now, and we're going to answer these putting on in front of them. So Gracie, just make sure to put on in front of them so you can see then when you're looking back, you can see the difference that obviously on, because they only change when on goes in front of them. Ceart Galore. Okay, Halini. So, Mashiv, right. So, I'm going to go through them now. So, you've 19.1 done. Okay, so I'm going to talk you through put 19.1 and then we're going to go through 19.2 Lekela, Kiart Glor. So, as I said, so Oglav. So, I can see that Oglav is Fernch Canuck. Okay, so therefore it's going to be on Tagalav. So, when it is Fernch Canuck and it begins with a gutta, it gets T dash. Okay. Now, Litriucht is Banach Canuck, but I can't put a H on it because it begins with an L. So L, N, or can never take a Shevu, right? So can never take a H. Now, similar then with this one, so on Neodrocht, can't take a H either because it begins with an N. Now, Kjardlin can take a H because it's Banach Canuck, L-A-N-N Gondera, so therefore it would get a Shevu on Kjardlin. Okay, and you can make note of these in your copy if you want. So fir birch, okay, so fir birch is also Banach Canuck, so think of it as a consonant quail, so a slender ending. So it'll be on birch. So remember, when it is Banach Canuck and it begins with a consonant, it gets a shevu, okay? So for feminine, always remember shevu when it begins with a consonant, and if it begins with an S, it gets a T attached to it. What happens then to Fernch Canuck, masculine? When it's Fernch Canuck, if it begins with a gutta, so it begins with a vowel, you put a T dash on it, and that's it, okay? You don't do anything else to any other thing if it's masculine, right? Now, so Pishog is Banach Canuck, okay? So therefore it begets a Shevu on Fishog. So guys, it'll be the same with Brogue, on Vrogue, okay? On Vrogue, the shoes, okay? Now, on Moontor, this is probably the biggest mistake that a lot of people make. So Mavuntor, like Ismahlam Mavuntor, I like my teacher. That takes a H, but that's different, okay, to the teacher. So the teacher is just on Moontor. Ceart Glor. Now, Ariocht, okay, Ariocht. Now, Ariocht is Banach Canuck, right? So I know even I would have like a want to put a T fleshkeen there, T dash, right? But it's Banach Canuck, so therefore nothing changes to it. It's just on Ariocht, okay? Similar then with Lower. So Lower is Fernch Canuck, so you do nothing to it anyway. But even if it wasn't, it'd just stay as it is because it is Fernch Canuck, but obviously it's L, so it can't take anything anyway. And Saoirse, so we do see on Saoirse, the freedom, Sadon Gavin. So when it is feminine, as I said, an S gets a T attached to it, and if it begins with a consonant, it gets a shevu. Right now, we're going to do 19.2 Lekela. So I'm going to write in David's box just so you can see it. Okay, so now Shroan. So straight away, I can see Shroan is Banach Canuck. So therefore, it's going to be on and T attached. On Throwan. Ceart Glor, on Throwan. Similar with sewer, right? On, so it's going to be on tour, okay? Now, ban is also Banach Canuck, but it begins with a consonant, okay? So remember, guys, consonants is everything bar your 5 vowels. So A, E, I, O, and U. Ceart Glor. So that would be on van. Shea Pale then is Fernch Canuck, okay? So it just stays as it is on Shea Pale because it is Fernch Canuck on Shea Pale. Similar with on Taoiseach now, but on Taoiseach begins with a T, so therefore I can't do anything to it because of the dentals, okay? Now, what other ones do I have here? So 6, so on Canuck, right? Because it's masculine, it stays the same. On Canuck, okay? The hill. Ishka is also the same, so Tobroner, no it's not, so it's Fernch Canuck, so therefore it's going to be on Hishka, the water, right? So on Tishka, the water, because it gets a T fleshkeen when it is Fernch Canuck, right? Now, sorry, I just can't see what's the other one there. Aaron is the same. On Tyrone, I think I mentioned that one earlier. On Tyrone, okay. Sorry, Father Aaron and what do we have here? What's left? So on Idol and Oli. So again, guys, Idol is feminine, so therefore nothing changes. So it's just on Idol, okay. And then we have Oli, so on Oli, okay. On Oli, okay, the informant, okay. So it's really important. You don't need to know them inside out and upside down, but it is important to get confident with them. And look, it comes with practice, okay? It definitely comes with practice. We definitely don't practice them enough, but it is just something to be aware of, okay? Now, we are now going to have a look at the Mo Cnulach and the Mo Cnulach endings. So the first thing I want to say about the Mo Cnulach is, it's just, so if you want to make a note, I'm going to make a note here, is the would verb, is what I would call it, right? The would verb, okay? So like I would go, he would see, she would do, they would give, okay? So it's if you do French, it's like the what do they call it? Is it this le subjunctif, okay, in French, okay? So the would verb. Now, the only thing that makes the Mo Cnulach hard is that they have an ending for every pronoun. Bar, she, and she, and shiv, okay? So actually, I'm just going to highlight here. So you can say that these ones take the same, right? So these three, but then the rest of them all look different and they all have like a different ending, right? And they don't have any pronouns, okay? So like, for example, cur hin is I would put, cur ha is you would put, cur famis is we would put, cur fadish is they would put. I don't say may or to or she'd or shiv shin in front of these words, or sorry, after these words, okay? So that's the first thing, right? So there's no pronouns, and what I mean by pronouns is like me, you, him, her, okay? No pronouns except for she, and shiv, okay? So the rest are built into the ending. And what was the other thing I want to say to you? Oh yeah, so you need to treat the Mo Cnulach, so the MC as I do call it, you need to treat the MC like the Amshakacha. Okay, so what does that mean? So verbs in the Mo Cnulach get a H if they can take it, okay? Can take H's. And D apostrophe. So for example, de u sods hin. I would use dole hin. Dole ha is you would drink. Okay. And then you have like, for example, as I was saying, cur hock she. He would put. Okay, I'm gonna unhighlight this, guys. Sorry, everything just automatically highlights when I'm making notes and underlines. It's so annoying. Okay, right. So they're just some notes to take about the Mo Cnulach. Now, the one you need to worry about the most are these endings here, right? So this one. So I'm going to put that in pink, right? So obviously this is the broad end in one syllable, and then across from it is the slender end in one syllable, okay? Or sorry, two syllable. Am I right in saying that? Sorry. What am I trying? Sorry, that's two syllable. Yeah. So slender end in two syllable, slender end in one syllable. Okay. So sorry, I'm just going to write that there. So one syllable, so you don't get confused. And two syllable. So for example, right, I could write glon hin, right? That's I would clean, but then it'd be can, well, actually I better use a slender one. Bval Owen, I would collect. Okay, so you can see the difference there, right, in examples. I wonder, can I just unhighlight that? Maybe put it in a different color. Okay, that's just not working out for me, guys. Just so you don't get confused and you think it's like part of it or something. Okay. So Glonhin but Valoan. And I would say a good thing to try and remember is, or like highlight it somewhere, is try and highlight, you know, that they do take the apostrophes and they do take H's. Because I know when I'm even writing notes, when I'm using the Mo Look, I can forget the H all the time. I forget it all the time because I just forget myself, okay? So I need to remind myself, okay, need to try and make the Mo look more like the Amshakacha, as in it gets the D apostrophe, it gets the H, right? So you can see down here then, so obviously then these are the one syllable skinny ending, okay? And then one syllable, or sorry, two syllable skinny ending, okay? So you just need to know in an oral situation, right? If you have to talk in the Mo look, if someone was asking you a question in the Mo look, it would sound like, you know, Cada yin ha, right? Kin och a rock go fa. So it would be this ha that you would hear, and then that's you would. So where would you go? What would you do? Okay. And then you have to say I would. So it's hin. So yin hin, cur hin, tor hin, glon hin, the usods hin. Okay. So again, it's all dulvoen I would prepare, whatever the case may be. So if you have a look here in this one here, now this is a mixture of like, well, actually, I think they're all irregular. Okay, so these are actually your 11 irregular verbs, okay, in the Mo look, but in different in different pronouns, right? So for example, I'm going to do the first three for you. I'm going to write the first three, and then I want you to try and do the rest of them. Okay, so first of all, so dare hin, and you can use the notes above to help you. So dare hin, right? So dare hin is, so it's I because it's hin. I would say, okay? I would say, okay? So the verb aber, so we have dort, sanam shkata, dare, sanam shaloikrok, dare fi, sanam shoshnok, and now dare hin, samvo kanilok, okay? I would say. The second one is you would grab, okay? You would grab. So again, it looks a bit different, but if you think about rug or bear in the Amshire Chatza, so it goes to rug, to bearum, okay, or baron, to bear fee, to ver ho, no ver hin, okay, I would grab, or you would grab in this instance. And then Ivra 3 is I would be, then I would be. So vime, I was, Beam no tome, okay, I am. By me or beg me, however you pronounce it, I will be. And then vein, I would be. Ceart galore. So what I want you to do now as your last activity for today, okay, I just want you to have a look at the verbs. First of all, have a look and think, what verb is it, right? Based on your previous knowledge of the Nabrifa Navrilta. And then second of all, you need to kind of figure out what pronoun is it? Is it we? Is it I? Is it you? Is it they? Is it him? Is it her? Okay. Remember, she, and shiv exist in the Mochanilok. The rest of them, it's built into the ending, and that's why the endings are all different. So I want you to give that a go for me now. I'm going to give you just 3 minutes and see how many of them you can answer from 4. So just do from 4 to 11. Try and do as many of them as you can, as best you can. And as always, if you are stuck or have any questions, just please ask me. Write it in the Zoom chat, or you can unmute yourself. So I'll say number 4 for you and you can guess then what it is. Clish famise. Clish famise. Clish. What verb is clish? Yeah. So famise then is we. So we would listen. Okay. Or sorry, we would hear. We would hear. The pronoun. We would hear. So eight is listen. So I'm actually going to show you what eight would look like in Zoom chat. So I would listen is deishtin. I would listen. Yeah, so we would hear zipper kahar. Okay, Ibra kuig. Yin fadish. Yin fadish. So it comes from Jane. So what does that verb mean in English? Okay. Come on. So they will do. They will do. Okay, Inkop. Right. Now, Ivrashe, Yohin. Now it looks like Yoey. So what does Yoey mean? So think about it. Yohin. Remember I said to you when they haw, kadi yo haw, Yohin. So what pronoun is it? So what's Yoey me? Yoey me mchiner taresh on ranga. Yoey me mchiner. Then if we went back to present tense, it would be foyam yiner gaklo taresh skola. Sanam Sharkata, for me yiner er she cloganye. So yohin. I would. What's the verb, do we think? What do we think? No, we're not sure. So guys, that's a good one. I would get. I would get. Ceart glór. So feck, so deckin, okay, is I would see. Deckin, okay. Again, it probably looks a bit weird, but again, it's just you don't see it that often. So deckin, I would see. Deckin, okay. Dis fall. Dis fall is you would eat. Dis fall. So guys, when you think about it, right? Dih me, ihum, is fall. You would eat. Okay, you would eat. The next one, number 9, is very important, and I think you should make note of it. Good one to use in Cora, especially. Torhin, I would give. Torhin. Ceart glór. Torhin, I would give. So these are great to have, because they're obviously, we use in a brief and Avrielta so much when we're like just speaking and using tenses. So hyocha is you would come. Hyocha, okay. Hyocha, you would come. And then the last one is Rockuk Shiv. But I'm actually going to show you what I would go would be because it's really important. So rockin. I would go. Rockin. Okay. I would go. So, Kylie, I know that's a lot to digest this week, but I think it's really important we did this, okay? Because I just think it's important for you to have these notes, get to grips with them. If you have, I don't have it in front of me, but I know I've made a video on it before. Fólam agus Cleachta, I use it in school with my students. I don't know, do you have it? But if you don't, it's well worth getting if grammar is something you really, really want to improve on. Okay, so I'm not going to give you ein obervala on tacht and seo, okay, because obviously it's a long weekend and I understand it's Paddy's weekend and a lot of people are doing nice things for it because it is a long weekend. And obviously you're coming into Easter holidays as well. So, and you've just had 2 tests that you've done this week. So I'm not going to assign you any homework, okay, on tacht and seo. And ní bhaid ein obervala a glíb le linn Sarah na cósca ach an éiread. So there will be no homework during Easter either, just for yourselves because, you know, you need the break as well. However, what I would like you to do is I would like you to contact me over the week, okay? If at all before Sunday or before it. So even Friday if you want to clock off for the long weekend more up. And just tell me one thing you'd like to cover in next week's class before we finish up, okay, for Easter. And then obviously if you plan on continuing on after Easter, you need to let me know as well. Okay, now there's no rush with that, but if I can know by like next Friday before we finish up with Easter holidays, it just means I can have everything ready to go for when we come back after the break. Ceart galore. But as always, Colleen, great work, and by me a conch live on Tachtan Shahuan.